Good evening. At 6 o'clock, we'll start the council meeting in the council chambers, Tuesday, June 13th, 6 p.m. Call to order, roll call. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item C, identify possible conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to item D, public comment, period, correspondence. At this time, I will recognize those members of the public who have indicated a desire to address the council. Upon recognition by me, persons may address the council, first stating their name and address. The council may act on emergency matters introduced by members of the public. Our first public comment is Tom Witzel.
Good evening. Tom Witzel, 1500 South Cedar Avenue. In your packet, one of the next items up for business will be the consent agenda, and I just wanted to request a potential change to the item. On page 24 of your packet, it's the Board of Public Works minutes, specifically PW 23-41. It's a motion to recommend approval parking on South Rhodes Avenue to be amended as noted. Parking prohibited 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on the east side of Rhodes from a point 515 feet north to the line, north line of 17th Street to a point 660 feet north of the north line of 17th Street. Further recommend that the Administrative Code of Traffic and parking regulations be amended to reflect these changes. Currently, the no parking zone there is all times, so it's not time sensitive, but it goes from 515 feet to 587 feet, providing 23 feet between the end of the no parking and the driveway to allow for a car to park there. I understand that there is some concern with vehicles that are backing in to a docking station across the street, and so there's a desire to remove that parking space. My request would be that this be amended so that instead of being 515 feet, to 660 feet, that it be changed to 533 feet north of the north end of 17th Street to the 660 feet, giving me the 18 feet back for parking on that side of the road. I would also ask that one additional change be made to this, and that would be adding 2 words to the time sensitivity of this. So the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, maybe adding excluding holidays to provide for parking on Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day, which are days that the business is not going to be receiving trucks. So that would be my request as this comes up on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Our second, Mary Jo Wheeler.
Good evening, everyone. Mary Jo Wheeler Schuler, 10641 County Road H, Marshfield, Wisconsin. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Mary Jo Wheeler Schuler, and I'm the newly elected Chair for Economic Development Board. We have a vacancy on that seat, and I had the pleasure of making acquaintance of somebody that I feel is very qualified to fill that vacancy. I express my heartfelt support for Karen Mueller. I understand there is another candidate that's been selected and in your packet for approval. However, I believe Karen is more qualified based on the following facts. Karen owns Mueller Investment Properties, which is a 5 residential property duplexes. Additionally, she also owns 3 commercial buildings in the bid district. There are a variety of businesses within these buildings. She also owns Mueller Electric of Central Wisconsin and Mueller Outdoor Media billboards. She's been in town for over 20 years and has 3 children that have attended both Columbus, RVA, as well as Marshfield schools. As you have just heard, she is a very well-qualified candidate for the Economic Development Board here in Marshfield. As a strong businesswoman, she has shown remarkable leadership and dedication in the field of economic growth and development with her businesses. Her passion for creating a sustainable economic growth in our community is truly inspiring to other women leaders. I have no doubt, with her extensive experience and expertise, her invaluable in driving the EDB in the direction it needs to go. Her vision, determination, and commitment, I am confident that she will contribute significantly in creating a prosperous and thriving local economy, which we all need. It is time for us to elect a leader who is committed to economic growth and sustainability. I believe Karen Mueller is the right person for the job. Karen has my full support as chair of EDB, and I wish you the best in her campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Any other citizen comments? Any other citizens' comments? I'll go for a third time. Any citizen comments? Robert's rules say I have to do that, so that's what I'm doing. Seeing none, we'll go on to item E. Approval of minutes, May 23rd, 2023 regular meeting and June 1st, 2023 CIP meeting. We have a motion by Alderman Tompkins, a second by Alderman Wagner. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Rigel?
Yes.
Mr. Fire? Mr. Fire must not be on.
Oh, he abstained. Okay, thank you. Item F, staff updates.
I'm not aware of any this evening.
That was easy. Item G, mayor's comments. Employee recognition, Bjorn Gilbertson, Fire Department, 15 years. Congratulations, Bjorn. And that is my mayor's update for this evening. H, Common Council. Anybody would wish? Alderman Tompkins?
I just wanted to say that I noticed in our magazine that there is a Government 101 course that's coming up in October. I did that course when I first came on the council. It's an online course, so you can do it from home, but it was excellent. Just really helped to sort of, I don't know, the whole thing of what we do. I mean, I feel like I would take it again and learn more. So just for anyone who's new on the council, I would highly recommend taking that course and signing up for it.
Any other council comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item I, city administrators updates.
Thank you. Just a couple things. First of all, there is a special Council and Economic Development Board meeting. I want to remind everybody of it. It's 2 nights from tonight on Thursday, June 15th. It'll be at 6 o'clock at the 2nd Street Community Center in what's called the Drendel Room, which is a large room if you've ever been there before. The sole topic of this meeting is housing and this discussion about residential development in the city of Marshfield. So all are welcome again at 6 p.m. on Thursday, June 15th at the Community Center. 2 other things real quickly. Just the good news that I shared with the council via email today, but it's worth repeating and for everybody else to hear. We've been told by Moody's that they are continuing our very good rating for our bonds of AA3. This is something we moved up to at our previous bond issuance in 2022, and it was coming out of a time 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, where we had a decline in our bond rating. So I want to thank the current and past councils, city staff members, certainly Jennifer as our finance director, and others who've been a part of helping us to get to and maintain a stronger bond rating. This is very important to us in terms of getting a good number of bidders and a good interest rate for our borrowing. And then finally, I just want to let people know we've talked about grant requests a lot of times in this room. We are pursuing a few grant requests with Wood County. The deadline is July 7th, so look for us to make some applications, and hopefully we'll get some money to offset the cost of some of our programs and projects. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Steve. That's a lot. And how great is that?
Yes.
Item J, reports from commissions, boards, and committees. Anybody have any reports? Seeing none. Item K, a consent agenda. Meeting minutes, reports. Alderman Tompkins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to pull Public Works PW 23-41 from the consent agenda.
Any others? Would have a motion for the rest of the meeting minutes and reports, A through J, with the exception of H. Alderman Stauber makes a motion. Alderman Tompkins seconds it. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Fire? He was just there. Mr. Rigel?
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we'll go back to the request from Alderman Tompkins.
I'd recommend that item that was referring to the street parking that was spoken about in public comments, that go back to Public Works to discuss adding a parking spot on the south side, since one parking spot is being left eliminated on the north side for the tractor trailers, and also to add the 2 words excluding holidays to the sign.
Anyone care to make a motion? Motion by Alderman O'Reilly, second by Alderman Giles. Any other discussion? Alderman Stauber.
Is there any reason we couldn't take action on that tonight?
Attorney Wolfgram?
On the agenda, I would do it.
I think you could do it either way. You could either send it back to the Board of Public Works, or you could make a recommendation to follow the comments made by former Alderman Witzel, and then we just amend the recommendation when it goes to the administrative code.
If I could, then Tom, do you have an opinion on the amendments?
It's a difference of 18 feet. It doesn't affect us, no.
Alderman Wagner?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm thinking that the Public Works Committee might want to take a look at that. Doesn't it change the traffic flow a little bit? If you do that, if this is put through, or do we know?
It shouldn't change the traffic flow. There's already parking that's available with a few feet of this, so it shouldn't change the parking at all, or traffic flow at all.
So this could probably come back to us in a few months or so if something's wrong.
Probably not. We talked to Superior Paper, and they were okay with the hours that we proposed.
Okay, thank you.
So what is your pleasure? Motion and second, and should we vote?
We have a request to amend the motion by Alderperson Tompkins.
So I would amend the motion that we vote on it today.
Okay, so motion by Alderman Tompkins, second by Alderman Spiros. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, please vote.
Just to be clear, you're voting to
Yes.
amend the original motion. That's all you're voting on right now.
Boy.
Mr. Reigel?
Yes.
Mr. Fire?
He was just there again. Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. He's there.
Okay, motion passes. Now we have to
Back to
do,
the main motion.
now back to the main motion. Let's just clear the, yep. We have a motion by Alderman O'Reilly, second by Alderman Giles. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Reigel?
Yes.
Mr. Fire?
Motion passes. Thank you. Number L, action on items removed. We had no need because we're done with that. So item M, presentation, proposed new residential development, introduced by Steve Bark, City Administrator, presented by Kathy Meyer, Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corporation.
Thank you. Had a chance to meet with Kathy and others recently, and Josh Miller, who does contract economic development work for the city on behalf of Cedar Corp. Had a good conversation. Very intrigued by the creative and innovative approach that this group has to a housing project, and we look forward to hearing her describe that and give more details here tonight. Kathy?
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity to explain this to you. We're actually updating this. We presented this probably 2 or 3 years ago in the midst of the pandemic. We are actually ENC Inc., not Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corp. They are our developer partner. That is a nonprofit developer that specializes in creating affordable rental housing, at least a component of it, a mix with low market rate housing. Julie Salomonsky is a retired special ed teacher, and I am a parent. Yeah, and I'm a parent of a young man, a young autistic man at 28 years old. So that gives us a little background. Now, in thinking about housing, we need to think about present and future living, and we need to plan with people at the center of these ideas. And I'm going to tell you a story about Rosemary, who's 60 and lives alone in her own home. Her husband passed away 2 years ago, and she would never move to an apartment building. It's too claustrophobic, but a lot of her days are empty, and she wonders if there isn't something more. People 55 and above around here can face a lack of affordable housing, boredom, loneliness, and depression. And we know that loneliness is as hard on health as 15 cigarettes a day. What if Rosemary had an interesting place to move to locally? Her home would be a good place for a young family or a young person starting out. New rental housing can create new home ownership possibilities for others. Another story is Tim, and this is a true story with a different name, is a 28-year-old young man in Portage County who'd been living independently for 3 years, with a job in the community for 3 years, living in housing designated for people with disabilities. Now, that's a parenting success, right? Adult children with or without disabilities living independently with a job out in the community is a huge target and ultimately a huge success. But with autism, that isn't such a secure thing. He was arrested for cutting the cords on the vacuum cleaners in his apartment building for the second time. Now, those of us who live with people with autism understand the sensory sensitivities and how many sensations that are normal to us are painful to people who have autism. And with the communication disability, Tim is unable to self-advocate. So his only solution was to cut the cords. Now, there are other solutions, more creative. Maybe they could have vacuumed when he was at work. They could have notified him to put on a noise-canceling headset, but he was arrested. Unfortunately, this is a waste of resources. It wastes valuable police time and procedure, wastes valuable court time. Fortunately, the judge recognized that Tim was not competent and dismissed the charges and recommended to the parents that they get guardianship, because Tim will never be able to defend himself in the legal system. Unfortunately, Tim was evicted. Disruption of routines is traumatic for autistics. The parents found him a place to live. But what we need to recognize is 20 to 40% of homeless people have intellectual disabilities, developmental disabilities, or both. No one can rescue someone who is evicted in Tim's situation. The social system isn't ready to take them home. Autism is estimated at 2.2% of the adult population, so that here in town, that's about 360 people. It is the most common developmental disability, more common than Down syndrome. What if we could support engagement, support activity, support independence, support neurodiversity, especially autism, and support healthy aging, all at the same time? What are we about? Healthy aging, understanding neurodiversity and autism, creating meaningful lives, creating a component of affordable housing, and creating a new concept of aging in community, not just aging in place, but aging in community where you can walk out your front door and engage in your community. And sustainability. A lot of the things that are proposed for people with disabilities are not affordable or sustainable. Autistic people also face a lack of affordable housing, a lack of sustainable financial models, a lack of community who understands them, boredom, loneliness, and depression. We found a model out in Massachusetts, a treehouse community, which brought seniors together with families adopting children who've experienced foster care. Many of these seniors have taken the foster parent training, and they consider themselves a trauma-informed community. We are aiming for an autism-informed community. Outcomes for the children and the seniors have been wonderful. The seniors, when we visited for site duplication training, expressed they could never imagine having this kind of a life at this stage of their lives. Now, we're interpreting Treehouse, and there are parallels between understanding children who've experienced foster care and adults with autism. They think differently, they experience things differently, they react differently. We see the retirement age as an opportunity generation. Ages 55 and above are an unappreciated well of power for good. We live in a community full of retired healthcare and education-oriented people, which are people with big hearts. The opportunity generation also benefits because they have a better life when they are doing meaningful things that engage in their passion and fit their lives. The goal of ENC is to build an autism-informed community where everyone knows one another and we facilitate community engagement and volunteer activity. Most of us make our best friends through working together on a project. Treehouse Community is a cottage court model and avoids the apartment building noise issues. Also, many of our rural residents will not move into a box apartment building. Walking is built into this community. To go to the community center, you need to walk. To go to the playground, to go to your neighbors. Everything is out your front door. Where are we in this project? We're consistent with needs of that the city planners have projected for low market rate rental and affordable housing. 3 of us have been to Treehouse for site duplication training. We have a nonprofit developer, Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corps, who has opened an apartment complex over 2 years ago, reserving 10 of 40 units for autistic people. We are a tax-exempt 501c3 organization. Our developer is experienced in securing low-income housing tax credits and low-interest loans to build a component of affordable housing. And our nonprofit will have a balanced funding that we will need to raise in a capital campaign. We see creating new opportunities as key, and it's not limited to the ones we have listed here. Imagine the all-day cafe. Only go there if you have all day in our community center. We can have going out for coffee as volunteer, as ODC, maybe coaching someone like my son, how to wait on you. Having a group that understands and is patient is extremely valuable to people who take a long time acquiring new skills. Micro boards are another opportunity for many of our retirement age people to engage with skills that they've acquired lifelong. A micro board is a nonprofit that serves one person with a disability. They then can advocate when parents are gone for what the person's needs are, and they become essentially a managed care organization and are recognized by the state, and they negotiate with the state for the person's support budget. What are retirees looking for? Some are learning to learn new things, do meaningful things, and do it on their terms. And we think that Treehouse Community, a multiple award-winning model, has hit the sweet spot. They recommend 6 hours a week of volunteer work, and it seems to work really well. It's not something that people are held to, but it's a way of encouraging engagement. The challenges in the golden years, the life we trained for is gone. The children are grown and gone. And many people don't realize when they retire, they've retired from their primary social life as well. It's a time to reinvent life, and we don't have that focus yet. Health is linked to our social, our housing, and our finances. And housing is linked to our health, finances, and social. And if we can support the housing and social, it will support health and finances as well. And with an aging population where in the US we will double the number of people over 80 between 2015 and 2035. And that is something that we're not prepared for either unless we can address healthy aging. What can we anticipate? How can we find a recipe for a meaningful life for each person? We will build long-term relationships through volunteer activities for those 55 and above, as well as autistic adults, both within the primary community and the community at large. And what kind of model? Well, parents may be some of the seniors who want to live in the community. We will not be providing services, but act as a catalyst to help members locate appropriate housing and services. We will be leveraging existing community organizations. These services are independent of ENC. A treehouse model is one where in the community center, they have 3 supports. One is the management, one is the treehouse staff, and one is the equivalent of our Aging and Disabilities Resource Center, and we will be mimicking that. With that, we can support helping people find the resources that they need. This is a view of Treehouse Circle, where you can see these are cottages, the single bedrooms in triplexes, and the family homes in duplexes. This is the inspiration for the cottage court that is not yet drawn up. The benefits for Marshfield: we can create new affordable rental housing, potentially free up single family homes, improve the health of more residents of Marshfield, raise the understanding and appreciation of our autistic community members, and raise the appreciation of our opportunity generation. Thank you.
Any questions for Kathy? Thank you for that riveting presentation.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Item N, presentation, city's emergency preparedness planning requested by Councilperson Stauber, presented by Eric Jonas, Deputy Fire Chief.
Good evening. We've been asked here this evening to discuss the City of Marshfield's emergency preparedness and go over our Emergency Operations Center, the function of what it consists of, and what we do to prepare on a yearly basis for citywide emergencies. So as you can see, we have multiple partners with us in preparation for all types of emergencies. When most of us think of emergencies, it's dealing with police or fire departments. But as this last training that we did shows, that we went through some cyber security training that doesn't really involve a whole lot of police or fire involvement. So we have a lot of partners, Marshfield Utilities, Wood County EOCs. As you can see up there, these are all people that meet on a bi-monthly basis, usually at the fire department. Other people or other agencies up there, the state of Wisconsin, Red Cross, other private contractors, aren't necessarily present at these meetings, but we do have relationships built with them, so we can call on their resources when needed. EOC activation can be done by, as you can see, the police chief or lieutenant, fire chief, deputy chief, or the city's mayor. Why do we activate it, or when do we activate it? Any of these 3 points can justify the activation of the emergency center. Large-scale emergencies are usually what's going to activate this center. So anything requiring 2 services at one time, that's going to tie up a lot of manpower, a lot of equipment, anything that's going to take 12 hours or more to mitigate. These are usually scenes that require a lot of resources. So that's why we open up the Emergency Operations Center. The Emergency Operations Center utilizes the Incident Command System. And this is something that's proven to work on a nationwide level. There are absolutely examples of it not working well, but here in Marshfield, we've set it up in a manner in which anybody can come in to one of the centers and be plugged into any one of those spots. There's not specific people designated for any one of those areas. So we have it set up where they can come in, open up a bin. There's a manila folder there with all the directions they need to run, for example, the liaison portion or the finance portion. Obviously, we would like to have our department heads of finance and operations, our operational folks like police and fire. But that's not always the case, because if there is an incident requiring both police and fire, those chiefs and those resources are not going to be in the actual physical location of the Emergency Operations Center. We do have 2 locations of the EOC. One is right here. This is our secondary spot, and they're both set up the same, the fire department and here at the City Hall. Obviously, the layouts are different, but we want to be diversified in our locations in case one of the emergencies are affecting an area in which involves City Hall or the fire department. We can utilize the other one. Training, this is something that, has become a laborious task over the years. Trying to get all the department heads or everybody involved together at the same time to actually do a training that's effective and applicable is difficult. We do have bi-monthly trainings in which we get together, go through our different packets, or have subject matter experts come in and speak to us. The other thing that we do on a yearly basis is we partner with Pre-Emergency Planning LLC. What this allows us to do is basically bring in a third party. This company's job is to come in, set training criterias, objectives. We sit down with them and decide what topic we want to go over. We plan out an outline, and then we set a tabletop and a functional exercise. This is something that this company also writes a grant for. As you can see, $11,400 was what we utilized in 2022. This grant funding, of course, is starting to dry up, so we may have to look at other means of funding this important training for our city. This training does involve pretty much every department within our city here. We did have this last year, most departments participate, along with the medical center was on location for this training. So quite valuable. As we discussed earlier, the cybersecurity training of this year, the core capabilities, the things that we wanted to focus on, public information and warning, that can be difficult at times to do effectively. So we really tried to focus on that and ways to really be efficient in informing the public. Operational coordination and operational communications are always something that we have to be ready for, and it's not always going to go the way we plan it. Obviously, communications is usually the one thing that in most critiques needs improvement. So that's something that we continually work on. So within these trainings, those were the four main points that we hit on for this particular cybersecurity emergency. Eng was nice enough to put together a PowerPoint in which this information came from regarding the latest cybersecurity drill. So we chose to utilize IT to set up a ransomware scenario that affected our capabilities to communicate within the city, took down all of our systems, and also affected Marshfield utilities and the water department. So what would our city do and how would we react to something that took out our ability to communicate and our ability to provide clean and fresh water to our citizens? I think it's important that we continue to prepare for emergencies like this that don't always have police and fire at the center of what's going on. Because as I said before, these emergencies, we all come together, work together, and it's important that we train like this so we can be prepared for all types of emergencies like cybersecurity. And that's the end of the short presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm going to jump in first and say, Eric, you've done a great job. I've been to all the meetings so far, and everything that you're helping us to learn is right where it needs to be. Very proud of you. Thank you for stepping up and doing this for us. Anybody else have any questions? Or if you want to mill it over and just go talk to Eric? Okay, Alderman Stauber.
I echo the mayor's comments. Thank you very much for the presentation. Hopefully it wasn't a lot of work. I would think you'd have something like this at the ready to present to any organization that would ask. So thank you for doing that. I'm just curious. I think of natural disasters and I think of train disasters, train derailing in our community. How many scenarios are there in the realm of possibilities and how many are we prepared for?
Sure.
And those two specifically that I mentioned, like train derailment, Waiwega comes to mind. And I think they vacated 3-mile radius from the incident. And when I look at the EOC locations, is there any concern that they'd be too close to the hazard if they were downtown, for example?
Sure, and that is a valid concern. And in the event of something like that, and by the way, those are two scenarios in which we have done previously. We would be absolutely utilizing resources from the Wood County and the state level, and we would most likely have a mobile position to run the ICS command system from. Secondly to that, all of our stuff that we have in our bins in our 2 physical locations is also replicated on the intranet for the city under the Town Square tab. So we can go in from anywhere and grab those forms and run the command center from anywhere.
And then one final question. So the general public, if they wanted to access information to at least know where the shelters were and what the chain of command might be in the event of a disaster? Is that information available?
That would be something that would be available at the time of the incident.
Okay.
So we would actually have a person designated, a public information officer, that would be designated to put that information out. That person would also work closely with our local, state and national medias to push that information out over the TV, the radio, social media. Those are all things that are pre-planned for us.
Oh, good. Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
Alderman Wagner.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was fortunate enough for several years to be part of the drills and go over there and observe what was going on. And I think the thing that impressed me most is that you maintain a tight discipline to the incident command model. And to me, that incident command model has made a lot of, I can see how the fire department and all the emergency service departments are attuned to it and know what to do with it. And I think that's one thing that at some time, if you've got spare time and like being at the podium, maybe you could tell us how incident command works and how the structure works and what's expected of who on the city council and in the mayor's chair and then the attorney's chair too. But anyway, if you could do that sometime, that would be great.
Certainly, and that's absolutely a great ask because on a large-scale event, you guys are all going to be involved in the decision-making process at some level. So to understand your roles would be valuable.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you.
Item number O, second reading of ordinance number 1494, rezone property at 1901 South Central Avenue, parcel number 33-03532C to community mixed use planned unit development presented by Steve Bark, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. This item and the one right after it go together, the two ordinances, they both relate to 1901 South Central Avenue, and that's where the proposed miniature golf course is involved in this proposal. The issue with this first one, ordinance number 1494, we talked about 3 weeks ago, fairly housekeeping in nature. It was rezoned last year to a designation called CMU-PD, Community Mixed Use Plan Development. That was erroneously so. We actually don't have a category that aligns with. So the request here is simply to rezone this property to planned development in accordance with what we do have a zoning district for, and that's appropriate for what is being proposed here with this development. The first reading was held back on May 23rd. I don't recall there being any real questions or concerns with this part of the issue with 1901 South Central. So staff would recommend approval of ordinance number 1494.
We have a motion by Alderman Stauber, second by Alderman Tompkins. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Fire?
Yes.
Mr. Rigel?
Yes.
All ayes, thank you. Item number P, second reading of ordinance number 1495, general development plan for mini golf course on property at 1501 South Central Avenue, number 33-03532C, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this is part two of that project at 1901 South Central. This is called a general development plan. And just to reiterate without going deeply into what I said 3 weeks ago, you start with a general development plan over the real heart, the overall project itself, going through some of those details. Once this gets approved by the council, then you boil it down to more what's called the specific implementation plan, where some of the individual issues and concerns are addressed. So what we have here is, again, a general development plan for 1901 South Central. It's a mini golf course. We'll be having a lot of features with it. There's a waterfall, a concession stand, a patio, those types of things. It's located on the east side of Central, directly across from Vandehey Waters. And that does play into one of the issues that's raised. But if you look at the staff report, I went through it fairly in depth last time. I'm not going to do that now unless there's questions. But you can see that a lot of issues have been addressed. Parking, many things. I won't go through the litany. There are a couple items in which the staff report from Bryce Hembrook, who does contract planning for the city with SCH, notes that we're still awaiting reports with stormwater and landscaping. We need their plans, and that will come out as we go along into the more specific implementation plan to follow. if this plan is embraced tonight. The one question that really was discussed at some length back on May 23rd involves a crosswalk to connect this development from Vandia Waters on the west. I think the city is very much hoping that this will become kind of an entertainment area, amenities that can really draw people to that south end of Marshfield, and they'll play well together. But there is a thought that there really needs to be safe crossing across Central Avenue if we get a lot of foot traffic, or people wanting to go from one to the other, which makes sense. And it could go either way, people coming from the golf course to Vandia Waters or vice versa. So it would benefit, I think, both entities. Discussion a little bit since the last meeting with our engineering and planning folks about the need for this crosswalk. I think it's pretty well understood that it's something that we really should have to provide safe crossing. There's been a little bit of talk so far about whether or not there needs to be more than just a walkway. Does there need to be certain signage? Does there need to be flashing signs where you hit the button and it illuminates to warn motorists coming in that direction that there is someone about to cross the intersection? And I think we touched on a little bit last time, would the developer be expected to pay some or all of that cost? That has not been decided at this point. We do intend to talk more with the developer about, I think, possibly a shared approach to this that we would be able to bring forth at a later time. But I think everybody agrees that there needs to be safe passage for people crossing Central Avenue from one amenity to the other. So knowing that that will be fleshed out later, staff recommends approval of the second reading and adoption, I guess I would say, of ordinance 1495.
We have a motion on the table by Alderman O'Reilly, second by Alderman Giles. Alderman Tompkins.
Thank you. So I have a question. We are approving the general development agreement, so not the specifics. So do those specifics come back to Board of Public Works, or how does that work?
They'll come back to the council through the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission is one who held the public hearings on these, and they'll be the ones who discuss the specific implementation plan. And that's where some of the things like landscaping and stormwater will come out and have to be baked a little bit more in the final version.
Okay, so because I see there's 4 things that they need to look at: the landscaping, the crosswalk, the wastewater, as well as they're asking for that 10-foot barrier between the end of the course and the fence and the other property.
Correct.
So, okay.
Yeah, and although the more we drill down into lower level details, all these things will be addressed in greater fashion.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Ragel.
Just briefly wanted to point this out, just in case it becomes.
You just muted yourself.
Okay, sorry. Maybe this will work this time. Just on the agenda, points out that it calls out 1501 South Central instead of 1901. It looks like the rest of the paperwork's in order, but I just wanted to point that out in case you created an.
Thank you.
Good catch. I apologize for that. Thank you.
So change the 5 to a 9, please.
Yeah, be 9.
Very good. Thank you, Andrew. I even read it and didn't realize that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no other questions, please vote.
Mr. Fire?
Yes.
Mr. Rigel?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item Q, request to approve resolution number 2023-37, awarding the sale of $3,650,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2023A, presented by Jennifer Solinsky, Finance Director.
Good evening. As we have been talking in previous meetings, we are in the midst of issuing our 2023 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, and I am pleased to say that the sale was completed today. And Dave Ferris from Ellers will be going through the results of that sale, and he is joining us on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, we have in front of us the sale day report. I'm not sure if you want to walk through that first.
I was hoping I would be able to control the screen so that I could roll through it while I'm talking. Is that possible? Jennifer?
Can he share his Zoom screen with? Okay, yes. Do you need to give him access to do so? Okay, go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. Okay. So this is the, hopefully you can all see this and can hear me as well. Thank you for the chance to be here in front of you to go through the sale day report and see how the sale went today. At 10 o'clock this morning, we took bids on your general obligation corporate purpose bonds, and we had 5 bidders, which I'll go into more detail on the next page, but we think you'll be pretty happy with the results. So on the next page, we actually have the purpose, which we discussed when, let's see if I can get this off the screen here. The purpose that we discussed when we were there for the pre-sale about a month ago. This is your 2023 capital improvement plan. As far as the rating went, we had a conference call with Moody's Investor Service, city staff, Eller staff, and the city was affirmed at a AA3, as Steve talked to you about earlier. We actually didn't have that upgrade, Steve, until we had a special call in the fall, I think. So this is something that we were really happy that we could get upgraded after last year's bond rating, but we were affirmed again going through this process. So that was nice to see that they're actually pretty happy with how we look. The other thing on the rating side is the underwriter decided to buy what's called bond insurance, and what that does is actually give your bonds even more credit worthiness. The underwriter pays for that fee, and so they basically give you a little more premium to pay for that, and it's all on them. It's on their request. It doesn't cost the city anything additional for that. So what I did want to do is just go down quickly to the rating report. I'm not going to go in word for word because, as you can tell from the packet, it's a lot of wording. I'll blow this up a little bit, but I think what I wanted to point out is that, the one thing that Moody said is that you have a strong financial position. And on page, let's see here, on page 11 is where that says that. Page 13 is what I really wanted to talk about, where it kind of talks about what that means. And really, it's something that was a problem a few years ago. Here, liquidity. So they're very, one of the big things about your rating is how you can deal with emergencies or paying your bills. And so for Moody's to say your liquidity is strong is really a nice compliment to the city. It's something that, 2-3 years ago, we weren't hearing those kind of words. And so I think, you should be really proud that that's something that they're bringing out for your knowledge. The other thing they talk about on the rating is the moderate fixed cost, and really moderate is a word that is actually a little better than I usually hear. I usually hear high fixed cost. So the fact that the city is in the moderate level for debt or for their fixed costs, which involves your debt service payments, actually also shows that they don't think that you have too much debt to be able to handle. So they don't see what you have as projects funding in the next 5 years because they've seen your financial management plan and they think that you're in good shape. So as far as the only thing that you can do to get upgraded is really, it has to be your strengthening economic metric. And really what that means is you have no control over that. So how fun is that? That the only thing that can get you an upgrade right now is for you to really grow the city by a lot. And it's probably quite a bit as far as that goes. So it's something that's out of your control, but the more you're doing on your economic development front, obviously the more it improves your standing as far as that AA rating that you are at. And just going back to the beginning, which I'll have to shrink this down a little bit. Oh. Let's see if I can get that centered again. Okay. So we actually had 5 bidders, and down on page 3 is where there's a list of those. The winning bidder was TD Securities out of New York, New York. The true interest rate is what we award the bond by, and it's about a 3.56%. Comparatively to the pre-sale report, we had you at a 4 about 4% as the planning run. And so we were able to, through the competitive process, give you a 0.4% rate better than what we showed you at the pre-sale. So that's also a good news for you. And then as far as, the higher rates, you say of the 5 bids, 3.67 would have been the difference. And so you did have, a sharpening of the pencils and obviously somebody really wanted your bonds and gave that lower rate. So because of what the underwriter did, they reduced some of their costs. Some of the cost of issuance went down. Also, the premium they gave us paid for some of the discount. So we were actually able to downsize the issue from $3,650,000 that we showed you at the pre-sale to $3,595,000. That premium that they gave you goes towards that underwriter discount first, and actually also pays for that bond insurance I talked about. But then the rest goes into the debt service fund and is used to pay basically your first year's interest. And I'll show you that quick on a future schedule here. As far as the callable state that we talked about, that's still the same, that in March of 32, if it makes good sense to pay off the bonds, or if we somehow have some cash available, we could reduce the amount of the size. Or if the interest rates are good, we could refund that into a better interest rate. The closing will be on June 29th, and that's the date that the cash comes into the bank for the city and either reimburses you for costs you've already had or pays for your projects that you have ongoing. So when you adopt the resolution tonight, the award should be for the $3,595,000. You'll want to do that. I think that your voting system allows it. That's still the same as being roll call, so that should work good. And then just some of the schedules that we have here financial, so you can see what happened. This first page on page 5 gives you a comparison of what happened. We still needed the same amount of projects. We got the premium, which some of it paid for this bond insurance and this underwriter fees, and then the rest went into debt service for next year's interest payments. That shows that we downsized the issue from 3.65 to 3.595. Then on this schedule, which is really tiny, the important thing on this schedule is, first of all, we show you the downsizing here. The interest rates come in at a certain point higher than what we showed you because, as I talked about at the pre-sale report, underwriters like to use premium to kind of prop up some of these interest rates. And so they've added some premium to these maturities. And really what that means is they give you this money that we have to use within 3 years, even though they spread their premium for their quote across the entire 20 or 15 years. But when the investor buys, they're getting a 4% interest rate on their semi-annual payments, but they're also paying more for that bond because they're paying a premium. So it brings that 4% down to this number that we saw back on this scale over here. So you can see from here that even though it's a 4% cash payment to the investor, when they basically get the size of the how much they bought down to how much they'll get at maturity, which is the face amount, it really only gives them 3.25%. So it's kind of a game that the investor or the underwriters play to make it look like they've got a bigger interest rate, but in the end, these are really the yields they're getting. Let's go back to that schedule. Okay, so the one thing that is important on this schedule is when we came out, we showed you that we were going to aim at a tax levy of about $4,715,000. Because of the premium all being moved into that first year and taking really that first interest payment completely out, we wanted to keep that levy where we showed you. So we moved principal to the beginning, which obviously ends up reducing some of the interest on those later years. It also provides some flexibility as far as how we can structure in future capital project borrowings too. So that's one thing that we were able to do is we were able to pay off a little bit faster and also maintain that amount that we showed you at the pre-sale of a levy of about $4.71 million. On the next schedule is basically these are your repayment schedules for the purposes. These are similar to what you saw at the pre-sale, but they've been adjusted for the premium that we receive that goes to each of these, and there's maybe a little bit of adjustment with how much principal is in the first year. And then the debt capacity. The debt capacity, I did notice at the pre-sale report that there was something a little bit off with our percentages and it was reading the wrong year. But we're really at the end of 2023 going to be at about 42.67% of the statutory debt limit. As we talked about, that's 5% of your equalized value or your taxable property. So your 65% policy is this red line, and you've got quite a bit of room to build in your future projects to stay under that as well. And that's what we'll show you when we start working on the capital plan. I showed you the credit report. You can read through that at your leisure. There is actually a scorecard in here back on page 17 of the PDF. But this kind of shows you some of the benchmarks that they use to rate you. Their scorecard says AA2, but the fact that your economics are a little bit lower than that group is what keeps you down at the AA3. So really, from a financial aspect, you look pretty good on their scorecard, but there's certain outside factors that notch you down just a little bit. And then the last thing that I have in here for you is just the interest rate graph. And, I was here probably somewhere in here, and we're a little higher than we were then, but it was really, it's still, we built in a little bit of risk to show you back in May, but we did better than that than we had planned. So kind of gives you an idea of where the interest rate has been for the last, 7-8 months. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but congratulations on your sale results. I think you did pretty well today.
Thank you, Dave. Any comments or questions? Great presentation. We're very excited to be a AA3. And we are looking for a motion by Alderman Giles, second by Alderman Varsho. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Fire?
Yes.
Mr. Rigel?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Have a great
Thanks a
rest
lot.
of your night.
You too. Thank you.
Item R, report and recommendation from the Marshfield Utilities Review Committee presented by Ed Wagner, Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As you know, before Mr. Fisher left the council, he asked us to address the utility and some of the policies that we have with the utility. This happened to be a subject that I was looking at coincidentally almost at the same time. And basically knowing what our cash flow is, what we were looking at here and trying to get a handle on was, could the utility be a source of additional income for the city of Marshfield? And so we started meeting with members of the utility staff, and I believe some of the commissioners from the utility were in there from time to time also. We started meeting with them, and we had a lot of learning to do. If you look at their balance sheet, you'll see one line there that will just, for all of us who have lived through the financial fun and games of what's gone on here in the past, I think 3 or 4 years, you look at their balance sheet and you see one line item that says cash and investments, $33 million, 33.1 or 33.2. We start to get a little jealous of that. It sort of has a tendency to get our attention. And that's one of the things that we were looking at. And what we found out during the course of events that we had with the utility and the discussions, there's basically, essentially two kinds of money that they have. One is money that is revenue that is generated off of their tariff. Their tariff is their verified rates that they're allowed to charge. And that goes for the electric utility, the water utility. Oh, no, what did I do? Excuse me? Okay, never mind. Anyway, the idea is that the PSC, or the Public Service Commission, allows the rates, allows the utility to set the rates, and they're reviewed by them. And they basically monitor those rates very carefully and monitor the collections very carefully. Those are not ones that we should be drawing funds, should be looking to draw against for additional funding. What is, they call this above the line and below the line. Above the line is the revenues they make off of the utilities themselves, the rates of the utilities themselves. And then below the line is money that doesn't necessarily come from that, from the tariff, but something else. And a big one there is the interest on the investment. So if they have, so it stands to reason that if they have a large amount of money set aside for investments and cash, that is generating some interest, and that is possibly something we needed to look at. Over a period of, I think, 2 meetings, we talked about that being a source of funds. I should talk about, there are some specific ones. There's the ATC dividend. ATC stands for American Transmission Company, or Corporation, I guess. And what we are stockholders in ATC, along with everybody else who contributed their electrical lines to the ATC network back, I think 8 or 9, maybe even 10 years ago. But now we do get some money from that. The policy we have at this point is that we get 50% of the net, the net dividend from ATC, which comes out, it's always been somewhere around $250,000 a year. When we originally got that, when we made that agreement years ago and the policy was changed, that $250,000 was to go exclusively to the Economic Development Board. Okay, the city could not make use of it in any other way. We talked about the interest on the investments, and we talked about the first thing I had suggested was that we would change our policy and they would match it with their existing policy and change that where we would take 25% of the interest on the investments for city uses. There is a sale of property, which isn't direct. Well, I think we have a disagreement with that. I think I considered that if they had property and sold it for a profit, that those revenues should be below the line. They are showing me stuff from the PFC or PSC that says that it should be above the line. We'll talk about that at some time. And then there was a thing that was brought up here on the council, and that was basically charging, we pay the city pays the utility for street lighting, area lighting, and that sort of thing, and for this. Basically, they wanted to add that. And there was talk about adding that as a separate line item on a utility bill and having that paid directly to the city, having the utility process it, and then the city would pay the bill and get the proceeds. Anyway, that one was not discussed at any great length. I don't think there was a lot of appetite for going after that one at all. So I know that the utility thought at one time that 20% was fine. I thought I was being fair to them at 25%, and we left that at that point. That's something that the council will have to talk about tonight. And there were some policy changes that were recommended by the utility also. Remember I said that ATC money went exclusively to the Economic Development Board? There were versions that would change that, alter that in some way. Version 1 would maintain the current practice of designating the transfer of funds from the dividend from the ATC exclusively to the Economic Development Board. So that's option 1, or version 1 would leave it there. Version 2 would eliminate the EDBA exclusive use of the AT dividend and vest utilization of any other funds at the discretion of the City Council. And 3, the version 3 would vest the discretion in the Common Council of all funds, including the ATC dividend in the Common Council. That's a policy that we're going to have to decide upon. Okay, all three of those policies utilize the same procedure for getting the money to the city, and that is that all three of the policies utilize the same procedure for the utility to provide the finance director annually with a memorandum showing the approved amounts to be transferred to the city with the supporting calculations. The finance director shall provide this information to the city administrator and common council during the budget process. Remember, no matter how the money comes, it all ends up going to Jennifer and then to Steve and for recommendation into the budget itself. So that's another decision we'll have to make. I think the committee had preferred option 3, I think. I don't remember, but yeah, I'm getting a head shake over there, so my memory is still good enough for that. Okay, and then the next thing that we were asked to look at, and this was probably the most sensitive of all subjects, is the composition of the utility commission itself. And there was a lot of discussion on it. One of the things that surprised all of us, we didn't know, but we have a commission of 5 members right now. It has 5 members. The statutes allow us to have a commission of 3 members, 5 members, or 7 members. But there is a bug in that ointment. And that bug is that the term of office is determined by the number of commissioners you have. So if we have 3 commissioners, the term of office is 3 years. If 5, it's 5 years, and 7, it's 7 years for a commissioner. We also requested that we wanted to, if we increase the number of commissioners to 7, 2 of those commissioners would be council members with full voting rights and voting rights and vesting on the commission itself. In other words, they could stay in the closed sessions because they would be just another member of the commission. As it is right now, if you're a council observer and they go into closed session, you're escorted out. So that's been a sore spot with many of the council members serving on the commission, serving as observers, and we figured we want to change that. So those are the 3 or 4 things, I think, that we have to talk about. And I don't know whether you want to do it tonight or if you want to do it, or if you want to send it back to the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee and have them come up with recommendations for you too. That's another option. There's a lot of discussion to be had here, and I'm going to yield the floor and ask for any questions.
Alderman Tompkins?
I have a lot of questions. Okay, so my first question is, when I was reading through, if the net annual return of the Marshfield utility investments, if it is a negative return, 0 money would be given. Is that ever happened? Is there a scenario when that would happen?
Madam Chairman, can I ask Mr. Combs to address?
I don't know where to start. To your question, the way that the calculation is being proposed and how the commission's approved it is the net investment in ATC. ATC is a company that we have ownership in, but we have no control over those investments as far as the capital calls or the distribution. So could the net of that be 0? Possibly. Have we seen that historically? No. But again, we don't have any control locally to make those determinations. Ultimately, we're at the will of the company that makes the request and provides the distributions.
So we're still at the will of that, like even now, today, if if for some reason they went in negative balance, there would be no pilot to us. Is that right?
No, this is, I want to make sure, pilot is completely separate of this. Pilot is state statute.
Right.
Pilot is not on the table. It's nothing we're talking about today.
So this is separate.
Correct. This is I guess, discretionary, if you will, whereas pilot is non-discretionary. Pilot needs to come. An ATC has no bearing on pilot.
Okay, and at the moment, these investments, are any of the money from these investments coming to the city at all for the ATC? Any of this money coming?
Correct. The dividend that we've provided, the utilities provided historically, has been was developed through the proceeds from ATC on an annual basis. It comes to the city. It was earmarked by the Commission for Economic Development. Based on your policy, you receive it for Economic Development Board. It goes right into the Fund 205. Economic Development Board provides you a budget. You approve it or not. They have that process.
Okay, I got that. Okay. Where does the, so we have like the water utility, we have the electrical utility, but we also have a communications, is that right? We have a communications utility?
Correct. But it's different. I mean, we have a communications utility. The city has a communications department. Two separate entities, two separate functions.
Okay. And how does that work with how much the city is paying the utilities for? Are we, how does that work with the money between these two organizations for that utility? Because it's my understanding we're the only ones who use that. Is that correct?
No.
No, we're not?
No.
Okay.
No, just to give you some history there, utility back in early 2000s started extending fiber optic cable throughout the city to connect our facilities, to connect our substations, connect our treatment facilities. Within those facilities, there's electronics. We're able to then monitor everything remotely from our office. We're able to get alarms, things of that sort. That's what it started as. And over time, it's grown. And now we provide service not only to connect all the city facilities, we also extend service to Wood County, American Transmission Company, the school district, and there's a couple of private industries as well that use that as a dark fiber service where they're able to basically, use their network equipment here at another facility offsite.
Okay. All right, hold on.
And that's, and we have contracts, and those lease rates are all set in the contracts, and it's uniform across all the takers of that service.
Okay. For your investments right now, what would you say like how much you make a year on your investments that are in the money market accounts?
Well, they're mostly in CDs, certificate of deposits. We also have LGIP. We have the forward bank, just as the city does with some of your funds. The interest earnings vary. If you go back from 2012 to 2018, when the interest rates in the market were essentially zero, we were maybe $10,000, $12,000 annually. Now, obviously, the market, if LGIP is north of 5%. So obviously, it's a much healthier number.
Okay, and is that when we're talking about the 25%, is that coming from the ATC investments or are they coming from the other, what we were just discussing, the CDs and things?
The other.
So when we're saying 25%, it's your investments that you're making every year is like $12,000 interest?
No, the money that we hold, the money that Mr. Wagner talked about on our balance sheet, we go through a process. We have an investment policy where we're trying to maximize the return with limited risk. So we place the money into CDs and very secure, risk-free opportunities. So CDs, certificates of deposits, are one mechanism. And we get an interest earnings just like you do on your own savings account. And that's the money, the interest that we're talking about, the 25% is of those investments on an annual basis. The reason 12,000 is because the interest rates that we were earning back 5, 6, 8 years ago was zero. So when the interest rates are near zero, your earnings are very small. As interest rates go up, your earnings increase.
So if the city were to, let's say in the year 2024, if we were to get 25%, what would your estimation be of what that much money would be?
Wasn't that the?
I brought all the numbers with me. I'm sorry.
You can give a ballpark.
Let's just say that, can I give you a different example that hopefully will answer your question? If this policy and everything that we're talking about tonight was in place as of the start of the year, I believe it's around $430,000 that would have been transferred to the city, and then you would be able to use those funds however you wanted. That $430,000 is the net of both the ATC portion and the interest earnings, the two pieces of the puzzle here that we're providing to come up with the dollars. So that would have been the number, that would have been the dollars that you have been transferred,
Because of this 25%.
and the net ATC.
I guess why I'm asking you these questions is I'm wondering, why are we not saying that the city could get 50% of your interest earnings and the utility get 50%? Because why would we not be benefiting both with the money that is being earned on interest? It's not like we're taking principal, we're just saying interest money. So my question is, why 25%? Why are we not going 50-50?
That was a number that was thrown out in the committee meetings. I mean, I think that, I think there needs to be a balance here as you're thinking about these dollars. I mean, I think that the utility are using those dollars as well. Obviously, we're using for different projects. We're using it for, you just went through the bonding. The financial position of the utility is one of the main, I mean, you read the liquidity of the city, the 48 million, 33 of that million is because of the utility. So I think, if you start draining dollars from the utility, ultimately then going ahead and spending it, then that has an impact, right? So we just need to be conscious of that. Like I said, we're using those dollars for other things as well. I mean, as far as different projects that we're using, trying to support the community in different ways.
Right. I just feel like as a team, if the city runs out of money, you won't have a city for utilities. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that you want to have a good nest egg, but I'm talking about the interest from the nest egg. So anyhow, I would just say that we might need to go back to the drawing board and say what is mutually beneficial. Because if we continue as a city to continue to cut and cut and cut, but we have one utility that has a great financial position, well, that doesn't matter if the city starts to go downhill. So we've got to balance it. And 25% just doesn't seem like a balance. So that I'll stop there. I just want to say that.
Well, I guess two comments to that. One, I think we went into this process trying to understand and understand what's possible, but also recognizing the city's situation. Right now, we're talking about shared revenue, which might provide you an injection of $1 million additional every year that you didn't get prior. So there's a lot of pieces to this that we need to be thinking about it every year and looking at it. I think that if, a greater percentage, it's definitely something I can take back to the commission. If you want everyone to be healthy, I think as you consider other items that are on the agenda and stuff like that, I hope that there's a balance there, right? And, recognize that the reason we're in this position is due to the leadership that's been in place. And that's, we're having these conversations in good times, luckily, not necessarily in bad times.
Alderman Wagner?
Yeah, thank you again. I need to add a couple of things. Number one is these were some very sensitive subjects. And I have to say that for the most part, the meetings were very cordial. And we talked very professionally about these issues, and we came up with some answers. The one thing that strikes us, ever since I've been on the council here, and going back to the times when I was the city observer, it was always thought that the utility commission was a separate entity of itself. It's not. It's owned by the city. It's owned by this council. And basically, we would be, certainly we'd like to see some increased revenues from the utility. Certainly it would help us if we did have some increased revenues. But none of us here are stupid enough to kill the goose that's laying the golden egg. And it's a matter of trust as to whether or not the utility trusts us to maintain that over a period of years, or whether they're scared to death we're going to be doing something that would damage the utility in the long run. I think I tried to make it obvious from the very first day of these meetings that we did not want to destroy the utility. We did not want to do that. But we want involvement. We want to be involved in the subject matter. We want to be involved in the meetings. We want to know what's going on. And we want to share in the in the benefit of having a utility in the community. And with that, I am going to make a motion that we refer this to the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee for further discussion and review.
Mr. Werman has his hand up.
Yeah, I just hopefully two quick questions before we move into any motion. One being, I assume that 33 million that initially flagged to this committee is something that's consistently contributed to?
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. So I was saying, I assume that fund, that 33 million that was flagged initially, like this is something we want to look at. Is that something that is consistently contributed to over the past several years and currently now?
The cash holdings of the utility is something that I took on when I was appointed, something the commission indicated we should look at. And as we develop policy, it's something where we developed a policy around what our target was. And then every year, as part of our strategic initiatives, one of those is to continue to build our cash reserves to meet those policies. So we're trying to, through budget measures, through controlled spending, in a number of ways, trying to help maintain that healthy reserve.
Absolutely. And I was just curious, if we move this to another meeting, if you could bring whatever the year-over-year growth is on that fund, just so that we know like what we're seeing consistently over the past several years and potentially going forward, that'd be good.
Okay.
And then the other one, I guess, probably goes more to the council, because the other item in this was really about non-voting council members. But do we have other commissions, committees, or boards that we don't have voting council members?
Not that I'm aware of.
Police and fire.
Madam Chairman, can I?
Please, just please.
Can I have a point of order? That we've had a motion on the floor, and before we have any more discussion, got to get a second on that.
And second by Alderman Varsho.
That was really it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Fire?
Yes.
Mr. Rigel?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Ed. Item S, request to schedule special council meeting on Tuesday, June 27th at 5:15, 2024, budget development presented by Steve Bark, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as those of you who have been on the council for even a few months probably remember, the last budget process went well into the fall. We actually had 3 meetings in the month of November. That's pretty uncomfortable when you consider trying to get the thing wrapped up and get it off to the taxpayers via the tax bills. So we want to get an earlier start on it. You've just adopted a meeting schedule tonight that will do that, moving that up about a week along the way. But one of the other reasons that we wanted to, or one of the other things we want to do is to get a jump on a foundation for the 2024 budget with the council and really get a sense of where you're at in terms of some key issues, go over some different metrics, where we're at with respect to debt and other things, but also hear from you. That if we have to make some difficult cuts, we look at things like staffing and service levels and those types of things, just kind of get a sense of where you're willing to go and not go. That'll help staff. We think about the budget as being a fall event, but really for staff, it begins basically right now. The department heads are preparing their budgets through the month of July. Jennifer and I will start looking at them in August. So we're really cranking up into full steam ahead here shortly. So the idea of this would be a 90-minute meeting held on Tuesday, June 27th at 5:15 p.m. in this room. We would then take a break from 6:45 to 7 o'clock, and then the regular meeting would begin at 7. We think that this session would be very helpful, or will be very helpful, in terms of getting council and staff as close as we can to on the same page before the challenging 2024 budget process really cranks into high. So with that, I would look for a motion to approve setting up a special meeting for Tuesday, June 27th at 5:15 p.m.
Motion by Alderman Werman, second by Alderman O'Reilly. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Fire?
Yes.
Mr. Rigel?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank
we
you.
will see you all at 5:15, Tuesday, June 27th. Item T, request to approve the appointment of Christopher Hansen, 915 Adler Road, to the Fire and Police Commission for a 5-year term ending in 2028, presented by myself, Mayor. You have it in your packets. The first reading was 2 weeks ago. We have a motion by Alderman O'Reilly, second by Alderman Spiros. Any other comments or questions? Alderman Tompkins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to, this might be an amendment to the motion that Mr. Hansen have a consult with the Ethics Committee so that they can give him pretty good boundaries of any conflicts of interest with his business and how it does have business with the police department. I think that would both protect the council, it would protect the city, it would protect the committee. If he's voted on, it would protect him. So I would amend that that this would be in light of him going through consult with the ethics committee.
Would you push your button?
Alderman Wagner?
First of all, a little clarification, if it's okay with the chair.
Absolutely.
Thank you. What I'm asking is, it's just a consult, it's the appointment with the consult. Is that right? I mean, the appointment is not going to be held off. You're just wanting to know want him to see what laid out. Okay, in that case, I agree. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to amend. A second by Alderman Werman. Any other discussion? Alderman Stauber.
After the last council meeting, and thanks to Alderman Tompkins for raising the question, I had some exchange with the city administrator and the city attorney on that very topic. And I wonder if you could just give us an overview of that, if you've prepared.
Okay, I'm cautious with that. Steve asked me about this afternoon in terms of to what extent to share any of that with the council. And so I'm going to premise it with that I wasn't consulted by the candidate. That's very dependent on facts. You folks have heard me talk about that in the past. I also struggle with the suggested amendment and whether I should comment on it. And I think it's the body's discretion. But as I've noted in the past, the decision or determination of whether a conflict exists really lies at the individual public officer's level. We all should be conscious of that and make those decisions because we know those specific facts. So with that, what I'm going to say is my response to the question that was raised by you was a general analysis of the conflicts of interest issues, and in particular, how the state statutes address specific concerns. I'm not able to specifically address Mr. Hansen's specific situation because that information isn't there. What I do know, though, is that Steve then took that piece of information that I had generated in response to Alderman Stauber's question and shared it with Mr. Hansen with this sort of just so you know situation, which then gives him the opportunity to go and vet that out with either myself or, preferably the ethics board. So that option is there. That individual is able to do that if they chose. Doesn't mean you can't make this recommendation that you're making, but that's sort of the background to it. And my conclusion was it really does depend on the level of business and the circumstances, because I'm going to generalize this way. Most conflicts of interest can be avoided by a person abstaining from taking action, all right? So if your boss comes up here and is asking for a contract of some kind with the city and you're here, you can potentially step down from that. However, there is a statute, okay, and that involves a criminal statute that says that you can't have a private interest in a public contract. And if you have that situation, it's not one you can abstain from. It doesn't matter. It's just the existence of that circumstance, and that's the one you always have to watch out for. So that was the outline of the document that you saw. That was shared with Steve. And as I understand, the candidate is aware of at least that general legal analysis of those issues. But it wasn't specific to his situation because I don't know the economics of that.
Okay, Alderman Tompkins.
So even with that statement that there could be potentially confusing things that could be, in criminal statutes, again, I would say for the protection of everyone involved, it would, in my opinion, be good to have the ethics committee just give some good boundaries or good layout, just so that, people do not later say, I didn't know.
Any other discussion? So we are now voting on the amendment.
Correct. Correct.
Please vote.
Mr. Fire?
Yes.
Mr. Rigel?
Yeah.
Motion passes 7-3. Okay, now back to the original request to approve the appointment. We have a motion and a second on the table, I believe. Yes, by Mr. O'Reilly and Ms. Spiros. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Fire?
Yes.
Mr. Rigel?
Yes.
Motion passes with all ayes. Congratulations, Chris. Item U, request to approve the appointment of John Tracy, 7990 Yellowstone Drive, Hewitt, to the Economic Development Board to complete a 3-year term ending in April 2025. None unless the ruling are suspended. Final action will be set for June 27th. So this is just a first reading. Alderman Stauber.
My night to catch people off guard, I guess. I was giving this more thought, and I went back to our previous council meeting, actually Economic Development Board meeting, where we were talking about the, what do you call it? The ordinance number 1483 has to do with the makeup of the Economic Development Board, I believe. And section 2, section 14 section 2 regarding membership states that we should only have 5 members. And I did a head count. We've got Butke, Wheeler, Bargender, Lang, and Kapla as non-city council members. I'm on the Economic Development Board, but the bylaws state we only need 5 members.
I apologize. I'm not looking at that particular section of the code right now. I can tell you that, okay, I can tell you that we used to have 7 members, including 2 council members, and then we expanded to add a utilities member, and that actually brought us to 8, which is where we are today. So, I mean, theoretically, right now, we have 1 representative for Marshfield Utilities, 2 council members, and 5 private citizens. I guess I'm still trying to understand exactly where you're headed.
Well, I guess my thought was we have two candidates tonight here, and I'm thinking, why not take advantage of the 2 candidates? And I went into the bylaws to see if there were any limitations, number of members, and that's where I came across number 5.
This is the only commission where we normally have a council election for membership is the Utilities Commission. That happens in September. Somebody rolls off, or at least is up for being reappointed at that point for an October 1st new term. But all the other appointments are made by the mayor, subject to approval, either thumbs up or thumbs down by the council. That's sort of where we are at this moment here tonight.
So maybe before our next council meeting, could we get clarification as to whether or not we can exceed the membership of 5? The bylaws, maybe I'm misinterpreting them, but it looks like 5. Pardon me?
Where were you looking?
Go ahead, Ham.
I mean, since you've got a reading and a candidate on the table, and this is nothing's being decided tonight, I would just suggest that we go back and review. First of all, we got to start with the city code, and to what extent that defines that. It sounds like you may be reading bylaws, and so then we take a look at that and see to what extent that there's any conflict between the two and what's stated. But city code would override whatever, that would be what has been passed, at least in terms of an ordinance at this time. So let's take a look at that, and certainly we will respond before the next meeting with definitive conclusion of what is allowed.
Sure. Right, and I think my comments were only intended to say that unless we're looking at, if I'm understanding this right, unless we're looking at expanding the membership of the EDB, the decision that will be made on the 27th will be either accepting or rejecting the mayor's appointment, and then going from there.
Alderman O'Reilly?
Thank you. I know there's been discussion on numerous occasions about the advertisement for committee members. And it seems odd, I don't know if this has been advertised or where it's being advertised, but I just wanted to confirm that this is getting out there to the public, because we're always looking for more people for these committees, and maybe someone could expand on how they are advertising, because it would be nice to be able to share that with the public.
Yes, sir.
This was another issue that Councilmember Stauber brought up, and we're going to report on this hopefully 2 weeks from tonight in terms of how we advertise and promote, and the idea being having a policy to be more aggressive and active in promoting. But in this case, we had several that were not filled when the mayor did her appointments in late April, and we had to go back, and we actually did advertise for Board of Review, I believe, and a couple of others. I'm forgetting, I think the Bid Board, Business Improvement District, and this was one. I believe we took applications for this one through sometime in the middle of May. So there was a roughly 2 or 3 week time when they were posted up on our various platforms for people to submit emails or letters of interest.
We actually had 7 openings after putting it out on social media, putting it out on the city website. I mean, we basically did everything except knock on everybody's doors and say, do you want to be on a committee? Do you want to be on a commission? So to me, that's frustrating when we have so many great people in this town and not enough are stepping up. But we do, yeah. So we're going to be a little more aggressive with our putting people on. So, and I think this is good. This opens the next door to make sure that everything is done exactly correctly and nobody's left behind. But yet again, a lot of people are left behind because they don't even knock on the door. Yeah. And to me, that's too bad, because this is the greatest job. Think about it. You people that are on the commissions and committees, you all know that this is what keeps the heart of the city going, right?
And if I can add to that, yeah, Mike, your point is very well made. And I think that what we did this time is going to hopefully be somewhat the prototype for what we do going forward.
So thank you. Okay, on to item V, presentation of candidates for elect 2 terms on the Audit Committee. 3, presented by Ed Wagner, Council President.
Thank you. After long last, we have found enough people to fill the slot. Yes, I did not have the sheet with the names on them. Jessica, do you have the names?
Your 3 candidates were Steve Katona, Vicky Burt, and Josh Jansen, and their letters are in the pack.
Yeah. I'm going to ask that I'll be asking all 3 of them to come to the next council meeting where we will vote for approval. But we can have them here and ask them questions. And there are some questions I'd like to ask them before we anoint them. So anyway, if it's all the same to you, we have no action to take on this tonight.
Correct.
We will just be passing it on to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Item W, request to discuss a possible ordinance prohibiting declawing cats, presented by Brian Giles, Councilperson, District Number 7.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just really wanted to briefly discuss tonight why I feel Marshfield should introduce a ban on cat declawing in the city. In your packet, somewhere around page 107, you will notice an entry entitled 10 Reasons to Support This Ordinance. I'm not going to go into all 10 reasons, but if you notice, the first 2 reasons deal with physical issues, and there's also behavioral issues later down the line. The main thing to keep in mind is declawing is actually an elective amputation of a cat's toes. No different than if we had all our fingertips cut off at the first joint. It's the same thing. It causes, besides immense pain, it also causes change in their walking, which many times will have back issues Among the behavior issues that we look at through declawing is they are more prone to biting. Scratching, their claws are kind of their way of protecting themselves. Without them, their next line of defense is to bite. A bite for a human is a lot more dangerous than a scratch. The reason I really started getting into this and doing research was when I saw last year that the Madison City Council had unanimously voted to ban cat declawing. I just started doing more research. Within your packet, you also find an example of some good language for such an ordinance. It's geared towards state, but could easily be adapted to city as well. It's quite similar to what Madison had taken on. I actually received that information from Megan Nicholson, who is the state director of the Wisconsin Humane Society. She has also agreed, if people are looking for more information, to come in, give a presentation either in person or via Zoom, depending on the schedule. And I just wanted to also mention, not to take my word for it, I included in your packet, I wrote 2 letters from the Marshfield Area Pet Shelter. And the first one is just their stance on cat declawing. Their second is a letter showing support for introducing this ordinance within the city of Marshfield. So just looking for either your consideration to adapt such a ban or to continue talking about this if you have any more questions. Thank you.
Any questions from the council?
I identify as a cat. Wow.
Yes, Andrew.
Okay, I got a number of them, I guess. To start off with the letters from MAPS, who are the signatories on there? Is that just a general statement from Marshall Area Pet Shelter?
It is just a general statement from the organization itself.
Okay, and then the model language, yes, looks like it's almost identical to what was proposed out of the State Assembly in 2021 that it didn't go anywhere with that. And do not take this as me being opposed to the content, but more the form. If the ultimate goal here is to prevent cat decline, would it not be feasible if we were to, in this case, enact it how it's written, that would only apply to the 3 or 4 veterinarians in Marshfield itself? That wouldn't prevent anyone from going to a nearby city to have the decline done. Is that correct?
That is correct. It would be within the city limits. And to be honest, right now, I did research and I called the vets, and none of the 3 vets in town currently do cat declawing. But I'm also aware that there's been circumstances where people have come to the shelter, adopted cats, had them taken to another area, had them declawed, and then because of behavioral issues, they were returned to the shelter. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to prevent. I'm also looking at if Marshfield adapts something like this, hoping that other area cities will follow.
Right, because I guess my concern here is, if I'm looking at this, is the fact that we're basically taking action against the veterinarians, which in this case, it sounds like they don't have any opposition to it. I would still like to hear from them, to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to say, of what their opinion is on this, since they're the ones who will be directly affected by it. That being said, along with the model language proposed, the part about therapeutic purpose to me is somewhat problematic because it does not address who makes that decision. And it seems like it is kind of possibly vague, where it could allow the veterinarian to find a loophole in order to be able to declaw a cat at their discretion. So I'd probably say we need to rework that part a little bit. But like I said, it's not so much the content, but more so the form that I would want to make sure we get input from both veterinarians. Then, obviously, if MAPS wants to come in and speak to that, I'd be more than happy to have them come in and have them present on that. it just seems like my concern is I don't want this to be performative and we end up with just another, statute on the books or ordinance on the books. Because assuming everything else is true, I mean, we could probably prosecute this under animal cruelty as it stands right now. And I have no reason to doubt what MAPS is saying. But like I said, it's more so form as opposed to content.
Alderman O'Reilly.
Thank you. I would also like to hear from MAPS or whoever it is. I'd be very interested also in how that affects the adoption process. I mean, I see almost daily they have cats that are to be adopted. And I know cats can cause a lot of damage to a home, and I don't know, I guess you had mentioned other people had taken them out of the community. How does this impact our adoption process, and do they see a significant decline in people that would be willing to adopt, and what happens to those cats ultimately? So there could be some negative ramifications with it.
And that is something that is addressed in number 10 of the 10 reasons to support this ordinance. What they suggest is, obviously everyone knows about cats scratching posts. Cats do have a need to scratch. Anyone who has a cat who's been declawed, notice they still attempt to scratch. So among their suggestions for alternatives are the cat scratching posts, nail trims. They do actually have nails besides their claws. So there is the ability to trim nails on cats as well. They also suggest maybe some behavioral training, but the cat scratching posts seem to take a lot of the issue out of damage to furniture. So,
Alderman Werman.
Yeah, real quick, I know you mentioned Madison as an example of this. Are there any other local communities in the surrounding area that you know of that have done anything similar or the same?
Not in Wisconsin. And I know Lake was mentioned earlier, the assembly attempt. It's never going to go anywhere if you try to go through the state level. There's too much going on in the Wisconsin state legislature, where one of the longest legislatures, I think I did some research and I saw generally it takes about 2 years for a bill to pass. And then there's so many bills that it's never going to get that far to be voted on. So that's why I'd like it introduced at the municipal level.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you for that presentation, Brian. I'm not sure where we're going to go from here. Like Mike had mentioned, maybe we have a couple MAPS people, and if you could get your individual to either go by Zoom or come and give us a little more explanation, that would be great. Because then we have a little bit more clause in the situation. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Moving on to item W. Request to discuss See, here we go. Item X, report on Communications Department mobile application requested by Councilperson Varsho, presented by Tom Laux, Communities Director. And here comes Tom. Yes, sir. He's also manning the camera. So right now we can do anything we want. Just kidding. Everything's good.
All right. Okay. I'm going to use the computer if you want to get me in. I want to use the website, the city website. So you could have that for me. And I'll show a video here shortly. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And yes, the city of Marshfield has its own mobile app. So if you're not aware of that, you can download that on your mobile device, Android or Apple device. And what it's for is it's to make us really easy to find. Government made simple for citizens and staff and elected officials. That's why we have it. It is different than the website. It is items that are used for people that want to find things in a quicker fashion, and items that are available, more available than usually finding it through a list of laundry pages. So I'm just things going through here. I just need to get to the desktop thing. That's all I need to go. And then I can show you a video. There we go. Let me grab it. I'm just going to take Taylor's off of here. That's all right. Where is it? Can't even, there we are, trying to control the mouse. Someone else is controlling my mouse. I think Eng is controlling my mouse.
Give them mouse.
I was trying to move it at the same
Put
time.
your feet up, everybody.
Yeah, right.
Sorry about that. But I do have it on, it's on my Chrome. I do have it bookmarked here. So if you just let me into Chrome, I can do it from here. Right there. That's all I need. It's hiding back here. Let me grab it, Eng. I know where it is. It was right here. It's right there. Okay, let me get down to it. What I did is I built a quick web page. It's easier that way. So anyway, I want you, it's hard to show a mobile app on a computer because it's not mobile. I could embed it, but take a look at this mobile app here. This is what we have. If you can see the front, this gives you a good idea. And this is one of our pieces of marketing that I will use, which I did put in the packet. So you can kind of see a marketing plan that I came up with, which was over a month long. So hopefully you had a chance to look at that. One of the things that you'll see right here at the top of our mobile app is connect with PD. And that's one of the pieces that we're going to work on first is to get the PD out front. They have a strong social media presence as well as in the community, and they want to get more out into the community. So we want to provide that right away. So we're trying to do stuff with, we're going to make that work first. And then if you look right below it, there is an FAQ area. These are frequently asked questions, and this is what I meant by before. These are items that people ask things quite often. So they may ask, where's there an agenda? What about a pothole? Things like that. Below it is a notification, and that's a little bit different. And that is if you sign up for a notification, it's called a push notification, and you'd get information pushed like cancellations, news, events, a city newsletter, a road closure. You can sign up for what you want, and that would get pushed to you. Right now, we only have police, streets, and communications. You can divide those out. So say somebody doesn't want a report on a park and rec pool closure, they wouldn't have to sign up for it. So they wouldn't get, it's not one fits all. So you could sign up for what you want. But right now, just starting off, we have 3 areas at this point, which is again, streets, communications, which is an overall, and then PD. I'm going to play this video real quick. It's only a little bit. It gives you an idea what I'm talking about a little bit more. I don't want to go too long. Let me click to this here. And it will have a little ad because it's YouTube, so we'll get through that. And I just got to get the
if you don't have an air conditioner. This only takes 5 minutes. Tired of hot and
With your citizen.
Okay.
GoGov is software that makes government simple. For citizens, and elected officials. GoGov notifications simplifies the process of communicating with your citizens by providing a trusted source of information for events and notices directly from your agency. Keep everyone informed by sending
Tom, I was going to say, is Mike muted?
Oh, the mic's muted. Yeah, I just muted.
Not your mic, Mike Fire. It might be echoing through.
Yeah, it really could be. It could be a Zoom. Because it wasn't on there when I tested earlier. But anyway, we won't go through that. I don't want to hold up the meeting. You can find this. This is a GoGov app. But let's get out of there. Like I say, if it's going to do that, it's going to be very hard to listen to. We don't want to do that. Let me get back to where I was at on the presentation here. I guess one of the things I wanted to talk about is the FAQs and the applets. We can put a lot of different applets, and those are the pieces that are on the side that I showed you. And we can change those out as whatever we need. Right now on there is we have our elected officials on there. So you can learn about you guys. Information right now, it's just your basics on there. We didn't put any more information at this point than that's on the website. And then there's an area for agendas, there's an area for videos, and there's also an area on the side for our permitting software, which is through Evolve. And they can go directly right to that right away. So a lot of the items that we have currently now established don't go away. It's just an easier navigation to get there. And a lot of people use mobile apps a lot, and it's something we're trying out. Again, we're looking at different ways to engage with the public. We're seeing what works and what doesn't work. And again, this cost is right now coming out of our franchise fees. So no taxpayer money is involved in really trying to figure this out till it's going to work best. So we want to hear from citizens and what they like. And we also have that notification process on our website. So don't get that confused. It is a little bit different. It is different. This is for the mobile app. And right now that's what we're using. It can be used as a two-way conversational tool as well if you want. Right now we're using it as a one-way conversational tool, which I mean is we're not using it as a reporting tool to report like a pothole or some kind of item out in the community that we want to get a response back from a staff or an elected official. It could be done, but we do have that option right now through our GIS platform, and we don't want to intermix that at this point. So right now, this is just a one-way communications tool. And but again, no cost, it's there. It's a really good system. It's just that we already have something in place. The notifications are the key piece of what we're using them for right now. So it pushes a notification. And if you've mentioned Mr. Witzel, former alderman, had mentioned, we need to get the information to them without, them seeking the information. So that's why we went to that route. The app does have ability, just so you know, it's an extra cost. It does have code enforcement. It does have permitting and licensing as well. But like a lot of apps and a lot of different software nowadays, every company is getting involved, and there's a lot of duplication. One's good at one and one's not so good at the other. So this isn't here to replace any of that. They're working on a code enforcement right now that works with the current system that we have through Evolve, so that this would not take place of that. Right now, this takes place, really is made for finding things quickly, more frequency asked questions, and right now working with the police, road closures and events. So then people can subscribe to that. So that's really the gist of it. Any questions that you have about it? I know I went really brief on it.
Alderman Werman.
Hey, Tom. First of all, I think this is fantastic. Absolutely love this, and I'm glad that you asked for this to be brought to light a little bit. Couple questions I just wanted to verify. Number one, is this going to be available on all platforms, Android, iPhone users, doesn't matter, can use different size mobile devices? I mean, are there any limitations, essentially?
Right now, yes, you can have it on a tablet. You can have it on a mobile device. I do have it embedded on our city website because that is a bit different, so it looks a little bit different. So right now, like Connect PD, that is on our city website as a embed, which makes it look a little different. But yes, it does have the mobile friendly, so it squishes down. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is some of the stuff that we have is not mobile friendly, like our pay portals. That I can't control because it goes to another device. So maybe later down the road that these companies will have a mobile friendly device. But right now you'll see that if you click on I want to pay for a citation, it would go to our pay portal, but it's not totally mobile friendly at this point in time. But that may change in the future.
You just mentioned Connect with PD. So is that like a direct communication line with the police department, or is that just like you said, to pay like a citation?
Yeah, right now it's just a one-way conversational tool. It can be a two-way if they want to do that. And that's really going to be up to the departments if that's something they want, because it will require work for them. And I don't want to create more work for them at this point because they're the ones that are going to have to answer those questions. So they could turn it to that level, and I can gladly help them do that. Basically, I just want to, I'm here to coordinate it, make sure it works properly, and also, do general announcements for the city. But when a PD wants to use it, definitely it can be a two-way conversation if they like it to be at no additional cost right now.
And I think that would be great. My only caution on that would just be being aware of Wi-Fi versus cellular users. If it needs a cellular signal and you have a Wi-Fi only device or something, just that there's some sort of caution out there so people don't think, oh, this is an emergency, I'm going to contact the PD, and I can't.
Yeah, very much so. It's not a 911, and it has nothing to do with that. It's just a quick way to retrieve information versus trying to go to our website. We have 500, 600 pages on there, and all those are very important. It's just that we want to get information that people look for quite often a lot easier for them, and that's why I developed the app.
Sure. Will you need an account to use the app?
You can if you like, but you don't need one. You can sign in, and once you create an account, that's when you can pick the notifications that you would like to receive.
Okay, and then I would assume your group manages all that data for anybody who creates an account on that app?
Correct. It's in the back end of it. It is all cloud-based software.
Okay. And then just two other questions. One would be, have you guys considered using this for any, I know a lot of talks in here have been about advertising and visibility. Have you considered it any type of push notifications for, oh, like, hey, we need somebody for the Police and Fire Commission or, other appointments like that, and making that available to apply or, put in your name in the hat or something like that through this app?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're only using it as a notice, like a news release that we do for these appointments. So that's been pushed out that way. But as in two-way conversation, I definitely could be opened up to that. Could be opened up to a mayor, a city administrator. Really, anybody could have access to do however they feel. And it provides that conversation, and it records it and provides it that it's safe as a record too, so it's archived according to that company. It's not on our other archive or city archive, but their archive.
Sure, love that. Last question would be, do you have like a planned tester group for the app? And if so, can I get involved? I mean, I would love to. I have some suggestions.
Yeah, no, right now we have not officially marketed it. It's kind of like this test to get it out here. You're the first to really say something. I wanted you guys to be aware of it. We have not pushed it out to the public, hey, here's the app, but I do have a marketing plan. Again, it can wait. We want to make sure everything was correct before we just roll things out and then there's problems. So that was the reasoning of the wait. So glad anybody please come to communications committee or even us to help us out.
Yeah, I have a master's in tech management and former IT project manager, so please reach out if I can help in any way.
Great, thank you.
Otherwise, great presentation. This is awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else? I will end by saying thank you, Tom, for your communications commitment to help make Marshfield better. We couldn't be more proud. And moving forward, hopefully more people will jump on the app. I actually was able to do it all by myself. And I'm not a computer person at all, so I feel very good about that. If I can do it, anybody can, right? Of course, Derek, we're going to bow to you, as one step above me. No, probably two or three. But anyway, great that you want to be involved too. Here again is why our city is so great, because people want to be involved. How can you not love it, right? Okay, and you can stay right there. Item Y, report on new survey tool used to solicit citizen input on a proposal to allow chickens in the city of Marshfield, requested by Councilperson O'Reilly, presented by Tom Laux, Communications Director.
Okay, I'm just letting this load up here. I won't show a video this time. I do have one, but I won't. No worries, we're just getting this up here. I got to get my top bar. I'm waiting for it to populate here. It's taking a little bit. I think it's because it's green. If everyone knows me, I'm a Mac user, not a PC user, so it takes a little bit used to every day of switching platforms. So I'm just going right to mine because that's where I designed it, and I got to get down there, and I got a presentation here, so you can see it. All right. So what is public input? Well, you've already heard about the chicken ordinance, and that's where we really had a chance to see what it can do, and it's really the second piece that we've done, but that was the one that really shedded some light on what it can do, and it brought in a lot of comments, well over hundreds and even thousands of comments. And what's nice about it is that it compiles comments from everywhere. It's able to take Facebook comments and compile it all together in a report, making it much easier for anybody that needs to put the report together for council or or staff to really see some good analytics. So it's really a powerful community engagement platform. It fosters meaningful civic engagement. The platform allows for efficiency, building public trust. That's one really important piece you'll hear is building public trust, defending the decisions that you guys make, designed to merely make it simple. We don't want to make it hard. This platform can be used by everyone. It's not a platform just meant for communications. Look at me as the coordinator or look at me like IT. You know, we get it together. Please move with it and use it. I'm here to guide you. But right now, I mean, have no problem putting the information on if people want to get it to me. That really is no problem with me to do that, just like our city website. But just kind of going down real quick here, it increases access to barriers that people can't participate. Maybe they can't come to a meeting here. Maybe they don't want to come to public comment, but they're able to provide this source of information to you guys, and then we can have you be able to see it and make a better decision. Just one thing I want to make sure that you're aware of, and I'll just, is, listening to the public is really important, but you also need to make sure you listen to your staff. That's why they're hired. That's why they're professionals, and the staff here is very professional, and they know what they're doing. So it's really important to take all those ideas together. It's not just one side, it's both sides. And I just really want to stress that. So these are important pieces to hear, but it's not a final decision. It's a part of the decision for you guys or even staff to be able to weigh in. I did put a little graph here that you can see here, and I put it in your packet. I won't go through too much because it's almost 8 o'clock. But it tells you what the community's role is and what our role is as city staff. And you're able to see the difference in there. And I can't read it really here from here, but it's in your packet. Some of those are very important, like you understand, you can contribute, collaborate, and then decide, which is what you guys do. Really, this is to help make your decisions easier and really based on facts versus just guessing, or I think we heard, it's just another way and another tool. So it's a really good tool. This tool was purchased through ARPA funds originally, and now is being funded by communications. Again, no taxpayer money. This is part of the process that we decided to do back in 2019 is to fund some of these new communication tools. Some of it is by IT, but this one is by us at this point. And I just want to show you 2 more things and then open it up for a quick question. I want to show you this example of a project and a survey. This is not us, but these are examples that you could do. One of the things I think Justin may like this, I think he was over there earlier. This is like a parks plan update, and he could take this, or his staff, or ask me to put it on there. If he really wants to put all this stuff in here for his events, if he had a community event that was, feedback for a certain park, you could list all this really nicely and clean, and then put your engagement platform or your public input within the whole plan. So that's just an example. You talk about projects, surveys, that's what this main thing we're working on right now. So I know I'm going through real quick here, but just wanted to point that out, that projects are key, not just surveys. They call them projects, but right now we're working heavily on surveys. And as everyone knows, our employee survey for satisfaction committee is actually through this platform, and it's totally anonymous. You can, so nobody knows who does what. There's no tracking of it. That's the kind of nice part. You can make it anonymous, light anonymous, heavy enough. You can do a lot. There's a lot of reporting here. One more thing, I'll go backwards. Our platform, I want to just make sure that you see ours. Right now, we need to brand the name. There's no name for it. So we really don't have a name. It's called Marshfield's Public Engagement Hub. But some places have like Speak Up. We got to be careful not to call it something like Connect Marshfield, because this is different than what I just explained. So those are key, and I'll bring this to the communications committee for some ideas, and maybe even the public, as well as you. Come up with some ideas that you would like to see use this. We would like to continue this because we saw some pretty good reporting with this to help the Plan Commission makes some decisions. It's still not done yet, but then you'll have a chance to actually do that as well. And if you want to see these results, right now the survey has been closed. Could always be reopened or added. This will be able to help you see what the public is out there saying. And it does tell you, it has a GIS platform built into it, so you can see if somebody was sending the survey from somewhere else, because you really want to hear from the people within the city of Marshfield. So it does show you who people can sign up. This is another thing, is people can actually sign up also for this stuff, text, email. Like I said before, it's getting very, it's almost normal to see texts and emails almost on everything now. So everyone can sign up for about 100 different things, but we don't want to overdo that because then what does people sign up for? This is a little bit different. Again, this is right now we're using it for surveys. So that's what we have on here right now. We have that backyard chicken survey, and we wanted to know a little bit about what you'd like to receive information from us through the survey. And we did a communication survey as well. What platforms do people want to get information on? And, there was, still email was one of those, as well as the city website, strong. Every place a little bit different. So we're just trying to get this going. This is a part that I'm working with Sarah Dressel on right now. She has access to it for the employee satisfaction. And that's another good test to see how this works. Again, that's not open to the public here. You can hide that. And this also has a meeting portal as well. A whole nother piece that if you want to open this up like this meeting, you could actually get comments involved. You could do all that if you really wanted to. I wouldn't suggest that, but you could use it for public comment if you ever did want to. It has call-in features just like our Zoom. It records Zoom. A lot of options. We're just digging into it. And right now, surveys where we're going to really do our work at this point and get some other departments that feel they may want to use that. They'll contact me. This is a good way to get it out, or yourself. You're more than welcome to use it and get a hold of me to put that information out too. That if you feel you want something out there that you want to know from the public, I don't see a problem with that. So that's what I have on this.
Alderman Werman.
I know it's getting late, so I'll try to keep these real quick. Sure. You may not have this answer because I know you said you guys are just digging in, but is there any way to avoid duplicate responses on the surveys in here?
Yeah, there is. We can actually, the IP address, you could only do one, and if you do it more than once per IP address, it would make you log in. So then you would not be able to be anonymous. But like our employee survey, I can't do that. I have to leave it open because it would ask for a name, because we only have one, as I remember, IP address in the city, and that's why it's that way. But yes, you can lock that down.
Excellent. And then second question, and this will be the last one, is just, is this able for us to be used as like at a district level? Like if I wanted to get feedback from people within my district, is that something that I would have to go through you for? Could you walk me through setting up surveys on my own or anything like that?
I can set up anybody on the survey. I can give them permission per survey, per whatever. Yes, you can draw coordinates. Work just like GIS. You can find the coordinates. We could even get coordinates from our GIS staff that are perfectly accurate, where you draw a map around. Pretty cool. You can just segment. You could just segment this block if you really wanted to. It's that good to pick that out. So
awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you again, Tom.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Lots of great information. Yes. Thank you. Item Z, suggested items for future agendas. Seeing none. Oh, okay. Under the bell. Alderman Tompkins.
Thank you. This morning I was at the dumping site for all of our lawn waste. I have a constituent who's very, very frustrated with the site, and I was able to come with advanced disposal, and then Tim from Streets Department. Excellent combo of people trying to problem solve. Because we saved $50,000 in our budget by not having curbside pickup, every single household now needs to use that site. And so the frustration level of citizens and staff and probably one of us who's used the site has gone up. There's a lot of issues, a lot of interplaying parts, but I would like to request that the street department, they have some ideas, but I would like for them to request for them to come up with maybe some possible long-term or short-term solutions and the costs of what those solutions would be. There's a lot of issues with people using it as a dump site, and then, you know, things that are getting in the grinders of the contractors, so then it's wrecking machinery. Contractors have stopped picking stuff up because there was so much garbage. And I mean, there's a lot of issues with surveillance, with people who are not Marshfield citizens using it. The traffic flow will be better, hopefully, with the roads, but I feel like we can do this better, but we just need to take a little bit of time and really do some problem solving and maybe some getting people together with some big picture ideas. So I would request that report.
Yeah, I know we're not supposed to discuss under items for future agendas. I get that, believe me. I just say that there has been ongoing discussion that the street superintendent has been involved in with advanced disposal. And I think we can summarize some of what's being done and what could still be done out there at your next meeting.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll go on to item AA. Adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin Statutes, Chapter 19.85, 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Number 1, possible purchase of property for future Marshfield Utilities substation. Number 2, update on Wenzel Plaza family restrooms, possible purchase of property. Number 3, update on insurance claim involved Marshfield Municipal Court. Number 4, development agreement for project located in TIF District Number 12. And number 5, develop agreement for sale of parcels in Daniels Addition. Closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes, Chapter 19.951G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategic to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation on which it is or is likely to become involved. Do we have a motion and a second to go into closed session? Okay, I don't see it, I'm sorry.
It's trying to pop up.
You have a motion by O'Reilly and a second by Marshall.
Thank you. Vote, please.
Mr. Fire? Mr. Rigel?
Yes.
We are in closed session. Thank you. We'll take a 10-minute break, recess, run around the building. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, baby. Yeah, 10 minutes.